All right, thank you for joining February's Lunch and Learn. Today we are going to be talking about compassion fatigue and the cost of caring for others. Let me share my screen with everyone. So again, thank you everyone for joining today, who's here with me and on Facebook. We're going to talk about compassion fatigue and what it is and what the cost of caring for others is. So many of us are in roles where we're caring for others and our own families at the same time. We're always trying to help and support and give all that we can. So today we're going to talk about the cost of giving to others. When I talk about kind of the cost of things, I tell my kids that not all cost is in a monetary form, that we spend our time, we spend our energy, we spend our emotions, our feelings. All this stuff is the cost that we give when we're caring for others. So a little bit about me today. I share a lot about myself. And if you've seen any of the other Lunch and Learns, I'm sure you know a little bit about me. But for those who are new, my name is Nicole Angium. I'm the program assistant with Virginia Family Network, and we provide support, connection, education, opportunities for parents with children under the age of 18 with mental health needs. I've always had jobs where I've been in a position of caring for others. My first job while I was still in high school was at a nursing home. And then I started working in an emergency room in upstate New York, and we were considered a level 2 trauma hospital. And we saw a lot of traumas come through because we were closer to the city than the actual trauma 1 hospital. So we ended up seeing a lot of stabbings and shootings and heart attacks and strokes. And so a lot of the job that people in the position I was in and other nurses and doctor was obviously caring for the patient that came through our door, but also helping their families kind of go through whatever crisis was happening at the time. And then once I moved down to Virginia, I had many different jobs in different doctors' offices as a medical assistant. And then I found a job with UMFS where I became a family support partner and definitely started caring again for other families and helping them find their way through the system. And now I'm here with Virginia Family Network, still doing the same, really helping families through whatever's going on. So what is compassion fatigue? So yes, there is a cost to caring if you're in a professional role, a volunteer role, if you're one of our professional parents that do so much for the state of Virginia. And it's a lot of, we listen to the fear and the pain and the suffering of so many others, and we start to kind of take on those feelings, or we've been through those feelings. We can feel right along with the other people what's been going on. Compassion fatigue is also known as vicarious trauma. It's a condition characterized by emotional, physical exhaustion, leading to a demise in the ability to empathize with others. I just want to let you know that compassion fatigue is not burnout. The difference being that burnout is more associated with the stress of what's going on, and sometimes being able to take a break or vacation from a job, find something different to do, will relieve the symptoms of burnout, where compassion fatigue is a slow oncoming. You almost don't know you're in it until you're in the depths of it. So we're going to talk a little bit more about compassion fatigue and then how to really recharge our batteries and get out of that. So we're going to watch this really quick video. We share it quite often with different I'm sorry, I'm having some problem. All right, so let me get to this video. So we shared a lot in some of our other trainings and workshops that we do. It speaks really well to kind of what compassion fatigue is and what that might look like for different people. Give me 1 second, I'll bring this up. If any point during this presentation, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the Facebook chat, or if you're on Zoom with me today, you can put them in the chat there. If you feel comfortable enough, you can just interrupt me and ask me whatever you'd like. All right. Here we go.
That prospecting day, introducing Lucia. The easiest, most
if you can't hear this, please let me know.
Let's play a little game. We'll play a word association game. I'll say a word and you can picture something in your head. You can even shout it out loud. Are you ready? How? Okay, so most of you maybe were thinking this. Maybe a few of you were thinking more this. And maybe some of you thought this. We'll do another one, work. Awesome, so some of you really love your work, like this. Maybe a few of you were thinking this. And I wonder if anyone felt this. We'll do just one more. PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. So most of you thought this. Maybe a few of you were thinking this. But I wonder if anyone thought this. Compassion fatigue is the post-traumatic stress disorder related symptom that you receive vicariously as a secondary target to trauma. Compassion fatigue is experienced by those in a healthy profession. Doctors, nurses, counselors, therapists, police officers, and maybe even you. If your unpaid role is that of a helping professional, then you may also be affected by compassion fatigue. You are the middle of the night phone answerer or helping a friend through addiction or anxiety. If you are raising children or caring for parents, or maybe both at the same time. If your unpaid role is that of a helping profession, compassion fatigue could be affecting you as well. And what puts you at a greater risk for compassion fatigue is empathy. Those generally in a helping profession have a very strong empathetic response. And empathy is that ability to pick yourself up and put yourself in someone else's shoes and get it. The problem with empathy is you don't get to decide when to jump out. Those traumas that they experience begin to change you. I remember when I was a supervisor of a therapeutic group home and I was sitting down with one of my clients. She began to tell me the horrific and painful stories of her past. And as she laid out in detail what she had experienced, my cell phone began to vibrate. And I wanted to show her that I was listening and I cared about every word she said. So I picked it up and I silenced it and I put it back down and I continued to listen. From that day forward, every single time I picked up my cell phone, swiped to silence it, I was transported back to her trauma. My brain had created a PTSD-related symptom that transported me back to her situation every single time for years. Now, this would be pretty normal if it happened that day after work at the grocery store, or maybe even a week or 2 weeks later. But where we get concerned that maybe this trauma is starting to change you is when it's sticking around for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and maybe longer. Now, for many years, compassion fatigue was confused. People called everything burnout until Dr. Charles Figley came around in the late 80s and 90s and began to do research. We called it burnout, but the truth is there's a significant difference between burnout and compassion fatigue. Burnout has to do with being worn out, tired, and just flat out not liking the job anymore. Compassion fatigue has to do with being afraid. Compassion fatigue begins to change your hardwiring, change who you are. We see this a lot in child protective service workers. They start to become overly vigilant, believing that everyone is out to hurt them and their family. When I think of this, I can't help but think of the nurse who came after one of my classes and said, still to this day, she can see the broken bones of the young man who was abused by his parents. That still today, she knows the smell of death from a patient who laid in bed dying. These memories, they do not just go away, and they begin to change you. But we like to make excuses because we think we're superhuman. So we say things like, I'm fine. I'm a professional. I can deal with the stress. In fact, it doesn't even stress me out. My famous talk off was, I've been doing this for 15 years. I know most people think it's stressful, but I'm okay. The problem with that is when stress and trauma start to affect you, your brain and your body, they do not pull for your opinion. And they will start to show signs and symptoms because your body and your brain are shouting at you. I am not okay. I cannot handle the trauma. In little ways, whether you start to have sleep problems, either you're sleeping all the time or not able to sleep at all. Another way it manifests is becoming a workaholic. I know plenty of you in this room think, Amy, there's nothing wrong with being a workaholic. Get off my toes. Let me tell you why it may be a problem. Because when we start to feel like we are losing control of the world around us, what we do is we roll up our sleeves and we work a little hard. And I can work hard enough to make this trauma go away. Another sign and symptom is feeling unappreciated and under-resourced, like what you have is not enough to get the job done. Now, I'm not saying that's not true. There's a very good chance you are indeed underappreciated. But when you started in this helping profession, or when you started helping your friend or your family member, did you know you were going to be underappreciated, but you said, it's okay. I want to do this anyway. Okay, I love you enough. But then somewhere along the way, that is no longer okay with me. It is no longer okay that I am not thanked and that I don't have what I need to succeed. What that tells me is your circumstances, they didn't change. maybe you change because of life. Maybe you change because of maturity. Maybe you change because of compassion. The last symptom I want to talk with you about today is called self-entitlement. And self-entitlement is a justification of negative maladaptive behaviors because of the positive things you do. The best way I can picture putting this is most of us went to school and got a degree or a certification to be professionals at what we do. But the truth is, I'll let you in on a secret, that's not enough because we're overachievers. So we require little invisible badges to really be professionals. Let me tell you what these invisible badges look like. For social workers, I know it looks like this. I stayed up all night long helping Joe Smith at the hospital. Now I'm a real social worker. For some healthcare professionals, I know it looks like this. I worked 2 shifts in a row. Now I'm a real healthcare professional. Where this turns into self-entitlement is when it looks like this. I stayed up all night helping Joe Smith at the hospital. That's why I'm a little cranky today and biting everyone's heads off. I worked 2 shifts in a row. In fact, I worked 60 hours this week. So I'm getting wasted all weekend. We begin to justify the negative behaviors because of the positive things that we do. Now that I have thoroughly depressed you, I want to give you some good news. That compassion fatigue can be identified, arrested, and treated at any time. That you can begin this journey for post-traumatic growth. That you can be better after trauma than you ever were before. And the best way I can think of putting this is when you think of an airplane, you know that the stewardess tells you where those exits are, and then they begin to tell you to please put your mask on you first before assisting other people. Now, every time I travel for vacation with my family, I show the stewardess that I'm listening. I get the cue card out of the backseat pocket and I give eye contact. I'm almost the only person on the plane listening. And I show if the plane went down, I could save the plane. I'm real intense about it. And yet it never fails. Every time they finish, they come over to me and they say, excuse me, if there were a change in cabin pressure, what would you do? And I'm a little offended. I don't know why they asked me that. But you see, that flight attendant, they see something you don't. They see the carry-ons that I travel with. They see this. They do see me. And they see this. You see, that flight attendant knows that no matter how much I listen to her, that I will put their masks on them first before caring for myself. But you see, she also knows that no matter how much of a supermom I believe I am, that I cannot live without oxygen. And yet every single day we do the same thing. I put your mask on you, and your mask on you, and your mask on you. And I don't care for myself. But you see, we can only give what we have. We give out of who we are. And if I don't care for myself, I certainly cannot care for you. So I'm going to ask you to complete a piece of homework for me. And I'm going to ask that you please do this every single day for the rest of your life. I have big expectations. I'm going to ask that you take 10 minutes just for you. 10 minutes to put your mask on you first. 10 minutes to pray or meditate, to exercise or take a walk. But 10 minutes to care for you first. Take 10.
All right, so as we go back to our presentation, So we've heard that compassion fatigue has many names: secondary trauma, vicarious trauma. She was saying like post-secondary traumatic disorder, secondary traumatic stress, which really hones in on one of those feelings that you're going to feel when you start feeling overwhelmed. So lots of names that people may bring up about what they're feeling. So there's a difference between compassion fatigue and compassion fade. This really takes a bigger role when you're in a professional role or even a volunteering role. Compassion fatigue, much like we're talking about today, is the change of your feelings. And when you're helping and it starts taking over and you start feeling more of someone else's trauma, where compassion fade is someone's attitude towards helping a certain amount of people or a certain group of people. An example of this is the more problems that we see in the world, you start feeling that whatever you would be able to do is never going to be enough. So why even help? So that's kind of like your compassion's fading. So the 4 phases of compassion fatigue are the idealistic phase, the withdrawal phase, irritable phase, and zombie phase. So when you're idealistic, you're very committed and you're involved. You're always ready to go. You're always willing to do extra. This can be as your profession, as your volunteering that you're doing, and even with your own family. You're always willing to go the extra mile, take on a little bit more. Withdrawal phase, you're starting to see the complexity of the problems. You're losing your ability to see an individual, and all you're seeing are these problems that come along. Your enthusiasm is starting to wear out. You're finding ways to cut corners. You're looking forward to when things can be end a little early. So if you're volunteering, if you're kind of in a project with a job and someone's like, oh, look, we're kind of ahead of schedule, we might be able to get out of here 10 minutes early. The idea of someone who's kind of withdrawing from what they're doing is, why are we leaving 10 minutes early? Let's leave 15 minutes early. We can finish this later. What we've done is good enough. You're just ready to kind of start pulling back from how much you're doing. Irritable phase, we begin to see like the imperfect of the systems and really start seeing or feeling that you're not able to do enough. You start distancing yourself from your work, from the extra assignments. People even distance themselves from their families, but not distancing yourself because you rather be doing something that you enjoy. You just don't want to do anything. You'll start seeing people get really angry with the system. A lot of, if this person could do their job, my job would be easier. If people would do their job, I wouldn't have to be doing their job as the parent, as the volunteer. So you're really getting upset with just how things are running now. And then to the zombie phase, where you're now feeling very hopeless. It's not just being irritated about things anymore. There's a sense of rage. You're very angry about what's going on. You no longer see where your contribution is helping. So you're ready just to kind of like throw in the towel and give up. You no longer want to volunteer. You no longer want to do anything extra. When we talk about caring for even our own families, that's where the zombie phase is. Let's just get through the day. Whatever gets us through the day is good enough. So some signs of compassion fatigue, difficulty concentrating, and feeling discouraged about the world. Really back to that, you no longer see where the things that you are doing are making a difference, are being any good. You're exhausted, kind of a sleep that, or an exhausted that sleep isn't going to be enough to take care of. You're feeling hopeless about the situation, about the future. Also, some signs of compassion fatigue. You're very anxious about everything. Anxiety is definitely higher. You are feeling depressed, sadness, no longer wanting to do what you've enjoyed. You're either sleeping more, you're sleeping less, you're eating more, you're eating less. And then there's physical feelings of illness that come along with having this fatigue. You have headaches and stomach aches and no appetites, and things that you could almost write off as something else. So when you're kind of still in that phase where you want to be able to still do work, if you're starting to get some signs of depression, you're like, but look at the work I do, it's hard work. Yeah, I have a headache, I've done housework, I've done my job, and now I'm doing this other stuff too. So yeah, I have a headache today, but I'm going to push through, I'm going to be okay. So then we start talking about how are we going to recharge our batteries. Just like Amy said, you can start doing this at any point and really start finding help and feeling better, so you don't feel over fatigued and you want to continue to do the good that you're doing. So it's finding balance between your work life and your personal life. If you're able to take some time off, if you're able to get away alone, those are always really good ways to help. Finding support and connection with others, especially with similar experiences. This is where you're going to find some help through VFN, where we can help with connecting with others and things. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. Joining a support group, which again, NAMI Virginia and the VFN have many of, so we can definitely help with the support and the resource finding of making things better. And then if you're finding support and you're connecting with others and you're still really feeling helpless, there's no shame in finding professional help to see how to make things better. So another way to recharge our battery is self-care. If you've been with Virginia Family Network a while, you know that we talk about self-care quite a bit. But today I really wanted to talk about two of the primary strategies for self-care. So there's the reactive strategy. So this is kind of when you're in the moment and you know you're starting to get stressed and you're starting to be upset. And some techniques and tools for your toolbox so you can kind of calm down and, get grounded again. So a couple of these are kind of stepping away, taking a break. If you're able to take a walk, go to your car, bring in a drink with you, cold drinks, warm drinks, whatever makes you feel better. Box breathing is a technique that helps with this. 5 senses grounding tool is really helpful, especially as you're trying to think of like 3 things that you can smell. Like you really got to think hard, but the point of this is it gets you out of your mind, it gets you out of your brain, so you're thinking of something else besides what's stressing you. And if you tend to be one of those people that travel a lot for your job, for your volunteering, or just because lots of doctor's appointments or other appointments with your family, keeping a self-care kit in your car, easy things, bottled water, mints, being able to listen to a podcast easily pulled up on your phone, or whatever else can kind of help your mind get back on track. The second strategy of self-care is proactive strategies. Much like Amy was talking, take 10 minutes every day. These are the things that you know that you're going to plan for. When I come home, I'm going to take a really long hot shower. I'm going to start dinner in the crock pot before we leave today. So when we come home, dinner's done. We don't even have to think about that. Sleeping in on weekends or days off, or however that time you can manage. Unplugging from social media is a really good way to take some time for yourself. So it's finding those moments and scheduling them into your life. And then being really strict with yourself about, this is the time that no one else can ask me to do anything extra for them. So the other way of recharging our batteries is setting boundaries. Dr. Brene Brown says that boundaries are not walls or separations or divisions. They are about respect. Here's what is okay for me, and here's what's not. So when you're setting boundaries, there's physical boundaries and social boundaries, spiritual boundaries. It's very what you're willing to let people do or what you're able to do. If someone wants you to, come on over to the house for dinner tonight, but you've had a long day at work or whatever, it's being like, not tonight, and not letting them be like, oh, but we haven't seen you in a while. We will plan something else, and that's okay. And we will. So it's not always easy to stick to your boundaries. It takes some time kind of figuring out what your boundaries are. It is a skill that has to be worked on and continuously practiced. So you're always learning how to stand up and advocate for your own boundaries. So a little bit about NAMI Virginia. As I mentioned earlier, NAMI Virginia can be a source of support. And I wanted to take a moment to tell you a little bit about NAMI Virginia if you haven't heard of them ever. So NAMI Virginia has become the largest grassroots mental health advocacy group in the nation. We strive to embody the very concepts of recovery, resiliency, and support. We are a holistic, strength-based, respectful, responsible, person-centered. We represent hope across the state and through our local affiliates. If you don't know who your local affiliate is, you can just let me know, send me a message, and I will help you find that out. And then you can see locally what your affiliates are offering. This will also help you find different support groups, different ways to stay connected. NAMI Virginia helps individuals and families impacted by mental health across the lifespan. So we have something for youth and young adults and parents and individuals, senior citizens, all kind of dealing with what's going on. So Virginia Family Network is a contractual agreement between NAMI Virginia and the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. We were launched in 2011, and the purpose was to create this statewide network of families and support so we could always be together and help each other, and using the lived experience of families to help other families. Some of the programs that NAMI Virginia or Virginia Family Network has is NAMI Basics, and that's an on-demand workshop now. So it's self-guided educational course, so you can learn more about tools of parenting and caregiving for children who experience mental health conditions. Children's Challenging Behavior is a really good starter course. It's 6 hours long. It's for parents of youth and young adults. It kind of through 18, and just helping with those needs of mental health. It's really great for parents who are just kind of entering this mental health world and just really looking for, where do I turn? What's next? How do I get started? And then once you've kind of been through it and you're like, now I need to help other parents because no one should be alone during all of this, you can take the Advanced Parent Leadership Training with Virginia Family Network. So this training focuses on skills and competencies relevant to being a parent leader in your local communities, and really sharing the word about how to help our families and how others can find help for their families, being able to advocate and tell your story. Some other programs that Virginia Family Network offers, since the beginning of COVID, we've been trying to find ways to continue to connect with parents and caregivers across the state. So we have a monthly coffee chat, which is just this quick 15-20 minute check-in. We talk a little bit about self-care. We talk about whatever's on our minds as adults, just being able to, check in with each other and just stay connected. There is a family support group that is statewide for anyone in Virginia of children, parents of children under 18 years old. So it's 90 minutes, completely confidential, where we used a lot of group wisdom and lived experience to help each other through whatever situations we're going through. And then things like the Lunch and Learn, just our monthly educational presentation of topics that we feel or parents have let us know that they want to know more about, led by other parents and professionals, so you can really learn what's out there and how to help families. And then this is a list of all the resources from today's presentation. If you want a copy of these resources, please let me know and I can send this to you. Lots of how to recognize burnout, how to kind of balance your life, boundaries. And then there's also a book that's really good about compassion fatigue and learning and ways to recharge your battery so you can get through that. So before we go, I wanted to know if anyone had any questions or any comments. All right, so then I just want to thank you for joining today and learning more about compassion fatigue and some ways to take care of yourself, and so you can keep doing the great work that you're doing. If at any time you have any questions that come up, feel free to email me and I can answer any questions that you may have. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.